Hello, everyone. If you were in the webinar earlier, Stephen was the host of that webinar for Clery reporting. We had some technical difficulties with the recording process, so I'm just recording it again, going over the same information that Stephen did, and then we're going to pass it back over to him for the Q&A that was done during the live webinar. So for today's webinar, we are going to be going over Clery reporting setup. So how you can set up your ARMS department to report your Clery information and your Clery stats for your daily log and for your student right to know report or annual summary report for Clery. Okay, so we're going to be going through mobile to do this. It's going to match what you see in your ARMS desktop client if you're using that, but we're going to be going through it through mobile. And if you do have any questions about anything with the desktop client, you can certainly reach out to us and let us know. So the first thing that you'll want to do for the Clery setup is go to the setup menu. So we'll go to setup right here. And then the first thing you want to do is set up your crime codes to report to Clery properly. So let's go to crime and incident right here. And online we have some documentation that goes through the specific Clery crime types that you want to do. So the first thing you'll want to do is go to the code list because there's some Clery specific codes that you'll need to set up before going into the crime and incident code. So go to code list right here. And if you do have any questions on any of this code setup with specific codes or something like that, you can always reach out to us. We have documentation that goes over every single type of code that you would need to put in for Clery on our support site. So we can either get you access to that or email you the document. All right, so we'll come to category, and we're going to go down and choose Clery. And then for subcategory here, you've got three. You've got cause of fire, Clery Act data, and hate type. Cause of fire is going to be for anything involving arson. Hate type is going to be anything that is involving any kind of hate crime or something like that. And Clery Act data is going to involve all of the Clery reportable crimes. All right, and so you see we've got all of these set up with the correct codes already. So you can always use this list right here to see what to put in for your codes list if you need to. Two to kind of pay attention to is going to be 2A, 2B, and then 2C and 2D. Those used to not be there, 2C and 2D. It used to just be 2A, forcible sex offense, and 2B, non-forcible. But since then, they have replaced it or spreading it out into 4 separate categories. So you want to pay attention to that and make sure that your department has it set up that way. All right, same thing with hate type over here. There's a couple new ones in here depending on when you first set this up or if you're reporting through ARMS. So you want to make sure that yours matches ours. All right, and so once you've got that code list set up, we're going to go back to the setup menu. And now we're going to go into our crime and incident codes. All right, so we're going to look at this aggravated assault with a firearm. So if we click on that, this will bring us to our crime code setup. We've got our description and our offense code and everything that's already set up. But the only ones that are going to apply to Clery Act data are going to be this code right here, Clery Act data, and these you can see are the ones that we actually just set up or just looked at. And we've got that selected for this aggravated assault. And then down below that in our crime types, you'll probably want to mark it as include in media log if you're wanting to report that through your Clery Daily Log or something like that. And then also in the right to know, include in right to know for it to show up in your student right to know report. All right, and then below that, the last 3 you want to look at are going to be drug law, liquor law, and weapon possession right here. You can see since this is aggravated assault with a firearm, there's a checkbox for weapon possession for that one. If it is a possession of marijuana, you would want to mark drug law, or maybe a DUI, you would want to mark liquor law right there. All right, so once you've got your crime code set up to report properly using this setup right here, we're going to go ahead and hit save. And now we're going to go back into setup. The last thing that you really need to look at here in the setup menu is going to be the Geo File. So if we go into Geo File right here, these are going to be all of the locations on your campus. So if we go to one of these, you'll want to make sure over on the side over here, you've got a tab called Clery Data, and you'd want to select the one that applies to this specific location. They're all going to default as campus. So really all you need to do is go through and change ones that may be on-campus student residential or non-campus, non-reportable, or public property. And there's some definitions underneath all of those if you do have any questions on that. All right, so we'll save this Geo file. And now we'll go ahead and start inputting information to our case. So I'm going to go to my cases section using the sidebar right here. And it should be just this first one I've got in here. All right, so some things that you want to enter in onto this case to make sure that it is Clery reportable. First thing is going to be the location. So just like we just set up that location to report as a student residential, you'll want to put your location here. And then going down the list, we've got our incidents in here, and you've got your aggravated assault. And if we go into incident details, actually look at it, you can see you've got the one you've chosen. It's got a Clery crime type of 4, which was aggravated assault when we set up this crime code earlier. And then in here, you can also add one more field that will apply to the Clery reporting, which is going to be hate right here. So this is going to be your hate types that we looked at before. So we're just going to put this as a gender. So the hate type is gender for this one. All right, and we'll hit done. And that'll bring us back to our case. So the next parts we're going to go over are going to be the main ones. We're going to look at adding an arrest and going into the actual Clery review. But before we do that, I want to show you kind of what the report looks like so that I can show you what the report looks like once we've actually added that information. So if I come down to my sidebar and go to Tools and then Report, this will bring me into Report Center. So I'm going to choose to open that in a new tab. And if I come over here, I can find Clery statistics on the sidebar. We'll do canned reports, so reports that we've already made for you. And then you've got the Clery Daily Log and also the Student Right to Know report. So if I click on this Student Right to Know report, let me run this for 2018. The case that I'm working on is 2020, but you can see this pulls the next 3 years, or the past 3 years. So if you're reporting 2020, you'll want to report the 3 years before that as well. So you can see we're working on an aggravated assault. I've already got 2 aggravated assaults in here. So you'll see once I put in the correct information on the other side or finish that case for Clery reporting, this is going to be 3. And then on our next page, we've got 0 for our weapon violation. But remember, we set up this aggravated assault with a firearm as a weapon violation. So once we've got it set up in the case all the way, it's going to show up in here. And then finally, on our last page, we've got domestic violence, and we've got that marked as 1. I'm going to show you how to mark your case as a domestic violence and get it to show up in here for Clery reporting. You'll also see in our other one, we've got this student right to know with the hate type value. And if we put in 2018 for this one, you'll see it zeroes all the way down. But once we finish this, it'll have a 1 in the 2020 here for gender. All right, so let's go back to our case. And the first thing that I want to show you is going to be how you report liquor law, weapon law, and drug law, or weapon possession, sorry. How you report the 3 of those through arms. Now, Clery requires that you only report those if they're on an arrest. So if someone's arrested for a drug law, liquor law, or weapon possession, that's when you report it. So let's go to our arrested person right here. We'll go into this arrest, which I've already got sort of set up. We've got the information here. I've got their charge as an aggravated assault, which remember, that aggravated assault has the checkbox for weapon possession. And then we've got our location here. This needs to be a location that is Clery reportable, and we already know that Parkwood Hall is. And then UCR statistics right here. So this is going to be the last field that you have to set up for reporting the Clery. So your charge for the arrest, the location being a Clery reportable location, and then the UCR statistic. So in here, you fill out whatever you need to, but the main one that you need to fill out is the stat code right here. You'll want to make sure that these stat codes match what you have. And let me go ahead and show you in another window what these stat codes should look like. So if we go to code list, so we're in the setup menu again, by the way. If we go to code list, then come up to category and go to, this time we're going to go to arrest. And then for subcategory, we are going to go to stat code right here. It is important that you have your stat codes set up exactly like this. The description doesn't matter as much, but the code does. It does have to be a citation, booking, referral, and other, but the code does have to be 1, 2, 3, or 4. So make sure all of that is exactly the same. All right, let me exit out of that, and we'll come back over to our arrest. So for this arrest, I'm going to say that it was a booking. All right, then I'll save that. Now that I've saved that stat code as booking, again, I've got my charge, I've got my location, and I've got my UCR statistic with the stat code. And that charge is marked as a weapon possession. So if we come over to this student right to know and go back up to our regular one, and we put in 2018 again, and hit apply. Now when we come to this second page, you can see we've got our weapon violation for a student residential facility on campus. So that pulls from that arrest that you put on the case. So let's come back over here and we'll click back to case. Again, that's for reporting liquor law, drug law, and weapon possession. The other ones, the ones that you saw with the Clery Act data type, are all going to pull from right here. This tab is going to be UCR/Clery reporting. So if you're reporting NIBRs and you no longer report UCR summary, you still have to come in here to report Clery, but you don't have to worry about the UCR part. So we'll come up here to start UCR review. You'll see that this pulls in the crime code from the UCR review. Then if we scroll down, because we can ignore all this other stuff, this is all related to UCR. If we come down, we've got our Clery information in these two boxes right here. And you'll see that it automatically pulls in the aggravated assault based on the crime code that we put in. So since we have that 4 as the Clery crime type, it pulls that into the Clery review for you. Same thing with the hate type. Since we put that in during the crime code, it pulls that in as well. So if any of these apply, Title IX, SAVE Act, or any VAWA information applies, this is where you would do input that information. So domestic violence, let's say that this was yes, it was a domestic violence, including a forceful or non-forcible sex offense in addition to a murder or manslaughter. If that did occur, you would hit yes and then choose that type of sex offense. All right, and then over here on the side, if anything dealing with an arson occurred, you would put the cause of fire, structure type, number of injuries, number of deaths, property loss total, and the mobile. All right, but that's all I need to add. I'm going to come up here and hit save. And we'll click over here to go back to our case. All right, and you can see right here, it just has all that information here for you too. We've got our domestic violence as yes, crime type is aggravated assault, and hate type as gender. All right, so we're done with this. We'll go back over to our student right to know report, and let's hit apply again just to update this. So now you'll see our aggravated assault, which was 2 before, is now 3 because we just added this with the Clery review. We'll go next. Still says weapon violations is 1 because we already added the arrest. That's where that pulls from. And then the final one is going to be our domestic violence. This was originally 1, and now it is marked as 2 for residential facilities. And that all pulls from that initial Clery, that Clery review on the actual case here. All right, and then you can also see you've got a lot of other canned reports in here that you can run that'll be all based off of that information we just added in. So if we came here, wanted to run the Clery Daily Log, if I ran it for just the past couple of days so that I can see this one I just added in, there we go. You've got your date reported, report number, you've got your general location and the Clery location type, date occurred from, occurred to, the incident and offenses. If there was a disposition, it would show that as well, and the date it was modified. And if we wanted to go off of Clery regulations, we could go back, the past 60 days. This is probably more than 60, but we'll use it. And this will just pull up all of the cases that have been reported to Clery. Okay. All right, so that is it for the Clery code setup. So I'm going to pass it over to Stephen's Q&A that he did during the live session. All right, thanks, guys.
To raise your hand, you'll want to go up and select the raise hand button from the participants menu, and then we'll be able to call on you and unmute you. All right, D. Brown, we have you unmuted there.
Hey, can you hear us? I think that's going to be David. David Brown, you there? All right. Well, if you are running into something like that and you can't get your mic to work, if you go down to that participants page down at the very bottom, you should see a chat button. You can always send a chat in to me or Jason or Stephen. And once we get that chat, we can answer that question for you too.
All right, Eric, we've got you unmuted here.
Yeah, and I know we're all different states and requirements and stuff, but have you ever, on the daily crime log and fire report, to post, include the officer's name on each record?
Devin, I'll let you go ahead and take that one.
Yeah, I've never seen that, Eric. For the most part, we have everything set up in the Clery Daily Log and the mapping portal for reporting that. But I've personally never seen it where a department requires an officer name on that Clery Daily Log.
Okay. I think you muted me back.
No, you're still there.
Oh, okay. And it's probably more on my state required media report, which is a different, we kind of use the crime log for that, but the state requires on the reports to have an officer's name on it, and that's just Oklahoma, I'm sure, apparently, and that's why.
Yeah, so that may have to be a different different report to your department, because for that Clery log, it's kind of a what's the word? A already made report in the system. So if we added it to just yours, then it would have to be added to everybody's, and I don't think most departments would want the officer name on that specific Clery report whenever they're reporting it out. But yeah, if you do have any questions on creating another report to be able to do that, then we can help you out to make something like that in Report Center.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. Thank you, Eric. Any other questions?
All right. Yeah, we've got a question here from Erica. So Erica is asking, why is it that drug and liquor law violations are not shown on the Clery UCR statistics tab? And Erica, the reason for that is that the drug liquor, and weapon laws are all going to be automatically pulled in based on the checkboxes here on your crime code here. So you've got your drug law, your liquor law, and then your weapon possession. So that's going to be pulled in automatically and included on your student right to know annual summary reporting based off of you using a crime code with those boxes checked appropriately here on your case report. Right. Then we've got another question here from David Brown. And he asks, how does this work for a referral case? Weapons, alcohol, and drugs. Does that pull from the arrest or from the crime code? And Devin, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, so kind of going off what Erica said as well, that drug law, liquor law, and weapon possession are all going to pull from the arrest, the crime code on the arrest. So like Stephen said, you would fix your, so let's say possession of marijuana. You would put a drug possession or drug law on that possession crime code. And then whenever you go to your arrest tab, and Stephen, go ahead and go to the arrest tab that you have for that name. So here you would put in the charges right there. You would put in the charge. So for this one, it's an assault firearm, or you would put possession of marijuana, or you would put a DUI or something like that in that charge. And then whenever you go down to UCR statistics, that's where you'll put your stat code of booking or referral or citation or something like that. So that takes care of what Erica asked and what David just asked. Going to be where your drug, liquor, and weapon possession are all going to pull from what you set up in the crime code and what you put in your arrest. And then the referrals that you're talking about are going to pull from the UCR statistics whenever you put in whatever stat code that is. All right, any other questions?
All right. And if you do think of any questions there after the conclusion of this webinar, of course, feel free to reach out to us via email at support@arms.com or over the phone at 1-800-776-6783, and we'll be able to help you guys out.
And one other thing I'd like to add before you wrap things up, Stephen, since this is the Clery reporting setup for you guys, we are going to be having another webinar sometime in June, I believe, June or July, sometime upcoming for the Clery mapping portal. If you're already using that, that's going to be where you can actually set up your Clery to automatically post and just sync every day to our mapping portal. And you can see that at portal.arms.com. We're going to have another webinar going over that if you are using it or if you're not using it and you're interested in using it. So just a sidebar that's going to be another one that we have that's related to Clery.
Absolutely. So just a little preview for webinars to come there. All right. Well, if there are no further questions, we'll go ahead and conclude today's session. We here at End to End hope that everyone has a great rest of their day and their week there. Y'all stay safe.
All right. Thanks, guys.